It's clear to me that your core principles have been quite consistent. I have this document you wrote when you were, I think, 20 years old, which was part of a contest where you won $10,000.
That's right.
For explaining what you would do if you were Prime Minister, if you were leading Canada.
You even dug up the check.
I found the check. It wasn't cashed. No, it's a fake,
All right.
it's a fake check.
We'll go have lunch.
So you won $10,000 for submitting this.
Yes.
When you were 20 years old, explaining what you would do if you ever became the Prime Minister.
Yes.
And I would like you to actually just read the opening 3 paragraphs, because it does, it is quite interesting to see how you've evolved, if at all. Could you just read those first 3 paragraphs and give me any of the context which I might have excluded?
Sure. Although we Canadians seldom recognize it, the most important guardian of our living standards is freedom. Freedom to earn a living and share the fruits of our labor with loved ones. The freedom to build personal prosperity through risk-taking and strong work ethic. The freedom of thought and speech, the freedom to make personal choices, and the collective freedom of citizens to govern their own affairs democratically. Government's job is to constantly find ways to remove itself from obstructing such freedoms. Human beings are graced with the gifts of creativity, wisdom, and ingenuity. The best way for a society to go about improving its living standards is to allow citizens to apply these qualities to the challenges of everyday life. Asking a prime minister to single-handedly improve the living standards of 30 million of the world's brightest is about as realistic as asking him to take to an Olympic sprinting track to help a lineup of world-class athletes reach the finish line. The more the government becomes involved in the race, the greater the number of hurdles competitors will encounter. Therefore, as Prime Minister, what I would do to improve living standards is not nearly as important as what I would not do. As Prime Minister, I would relinquish to citizens as much of my social, political, and economic control as possible, leaving people to cultivate their own personal prosperity and to govern their own affairs as directly as possible.
In the last decade, since you've been out on the road more, speaking to people, campaigning, where have your views evolved?
I would say my temperament has matured. 10 years ago, I did not have a wife and kids. As a father, you end up having to grow in a tremendous amount of patience because kids don't do what they're told, or they have needs that must supersede your own. You're constantly making compromises with a spouse in order to juggle all of the difficulties of family life. And that necessarily spills over into your political approach. I think temperamentally I've changed. I'm much more careful and thoughtful than I was, say, in my late 20s and early 30s.